Hello and welcome back. The book of Daniel, chapter 2. Let's begin. So, reading from verse 1. In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His spirit was troubled and his sleep left him. Then the king commanded that the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans be summoned to tell the king his dreams. So they came in and stood before the king. And the king said to them, I had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. Then the Chaldeans said to the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, The word from me is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you shall be torn limb from limb, and your houses shall be laid in ruins. But if you show the dream and its interpretation, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and its interpretation. So whatever dream Nebuchadnezzar had, and it's a very important dream. This dream came from God. This dream is all about the future up to our time and past it. And it troubled Nebuchadnezzar so much. He said, you know what? Just in case these guys around me are con artists, let's put them to the test. All of them claim to know some God or be able to divine this or do that. So let's put them to the test. This dream came to me from some God. If you know the God or the gods, tell me the dream and the interpretation. And if you can't do that, you're a fraud. All of you will die. Today, you will all be put to death. Very, very gruesomely. Going forward. So from verse 7. They answered a second time and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show its interpretation. The king answered and said, I know with certainty that you are trying to gain time, because you see that the word from me is firm. If you do not make the dream known to me, there is but one sentence for you. You have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the times change. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can show me its interpretation. The Chaldeans answered the king and said, There is not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand. For no great and powerful king has asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or Chaldean. The thing that the king asks is difficult, and no one can show it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. So, all these guys who claimed to be able to do this, to do that, to do the other, they just lie. Which I see a bunch of things online, debates between this religion and Christianity and that religion and Christianity. I don't get into them. I can, but I don't. And the reason being is simple. I have better things to do. At this stage, I believe I have better things to do with my time. But if someone comes at you, what's the difference between Christianity, between your religion and religion X or religion Y? It's real simple. Number one, as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a religion. I have a relationship. I have a relationship with the creator of all things, which was Yahweh. Okay? And number two, what's the difference between the book we read, which is the Bible, and the text of other religions? Ours tells what's going to happen in the future. And it's done that from the beginning. It's done that from the beginning. The Bible is the most historically accurate ancient text in existence. And it tells us stuff from the beginning. It tells the future. It tells the future. Until the mid 18th century, people believed that the Assyrians didn't exist. The Bible made that up. Until in the mid 19th century, until in the mid 19th century, the 1850s or somewhere around there, the Assyrians were found, and the great library of Ashurbanipal was formed. And that has happened with so many other things, with David, with the city of David, etc. Alright, but let's continue. So from verse 12, because of this the king was angry and very furious, and commanded that all the wise men of Babylon be destroyed. So the decree went out, and the wise men were about to be killed, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill him. Then Daniel replied with prudence and discretion. He replied with great wisdom. What's wisdom? Well, the beginning of wisdom is respect for Yahweh, and then it grows from there. So Daniel replied with prudence and discretion to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He declared to Arioch, the king's captain, "Why is the decree of the king so urgent?" Then Arioch made the matter known to Daniel, and Daniel went in and requested the king appoint him a time that he may show the interpretation of the king. Now you'll notice from verse 1 it said that all the wise men of Babylon were called. They didn't call Daniel, and they didn't call the captives of Judea. They didn't call Daniel and the guys. They didn't call them. They didn't call them. They weren't invited to the party. However, because of the foolishness of others, they would have suffered their fate. There's foolishness going on in this world. Foolishness that are caused by the wickedness of others. And while we are not of this world system, we are in this world, and sometimes this foolishness could bounce back on us. But you know what? We are Christians, not to be aloof, not to be better than thou, but we are Christians because we serve the King who is the Christ. And the Christ, with whatever assistance he needs from his followers, our purpose is to fix this place, not to behave aloof, to fix this place. Because the degradation and the chaos that people will commit that has probably nothing to do with us, we will still suffer from. So our purpose will be and is to fix this place. Alright? Not to be aloof. Let's continue. So from verse 17. Then Daniel went to his house and made the matter known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. You remember those? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, his companions, and told them to seek mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that Daniel and his companions might not be destroyed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. So Daniel found out about this decree that was going to kill everyone. And Daniel went to the guys. He didn't say, "Oh God, we're going to dead. We're going to be killed. This had nothing to do with us. And now we're suffering because of these frauds, these con artists." No. He said, "All right. People create a situation that's going to affect me. But you know what? As the representatives of Yahweh, as the images of Yahweh, what shall we do? Let's go to Yahweh. Let's deal with Yahweh. No one else can fix our problem. Yahweh can. So let's go to Yahweh." So from verse 20, and Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, to whom belong wisdom and might. He changes times and seasons." Yahweh changes times and seasons. So all these men of power who believe that they're going to last forever, whether Hitler and his Third Reich or this one or that one, Yahweh changes times and seasons. When your time is up, your time is up. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise. He gives wisdom to the wise. And who are the wise? Those who believe and trust in Yahweh. He's going to give you wisdom. Just know where that wisdom lies. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. To you, O God of my fathers, I give praise and I give thanks and praise. For you have given me wisdom and might. For you have given me wisdom and might. Daniel knew who he was. For you have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we asked of you. For you have made known to us the king's matter. Let's continue. Therefore Daniel went in to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went in and said thus to him, do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus to him, I have found among the exiles from Judah a man who will make known to the king the interpretation. The king declared to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, are you able to make known to me the dream that I have seen and its interpretation? Daniel answered the king and said, no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or astrologers can show to the king the mystery the king has asked. But there is a God in heaven. By the way, if you're reading this and people, whether I don't know if it's Jehovah's Witnesses or Muslims, come and tell you, hey, Christians are polytheists, there's one God. Yeah, there's one God. But you see that there is a God in heaven, and you'll read further. There is a God in heaven. It's in the singular there. But the word used for God when it comes to Yahweh is always plural. It's Elohim. Elohim is plural. The singular is El if it's masculine and Eloah if it's feminine. But for Yahweh, the word uses always Elohim. So if this was perfectly translated in English, it would read like, there is a God's in heaven who reveals mystery, and he has made. And that's throughout the Bible. So even if Jews come and tell you this foolishness, let them point straight back to the Bible. Okay? But I've probably dealt with Trinity before. Maybe I may deal with it sometime in the future. But let's continue. But everywhere, once you get behind the translation and you get down to the language, the Hebrew, the Trinity has always been there. As a Christian, you should be able to basically show people the Trinity in the Old Testament, because it's right there. It's right there. It's right there, and it's right there from Genesis chapter 1. Alright? It's there in Genesis chapter 1, and it's there all throughout the Old Testament. Alright, but let's continue. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dreams and the vision of your head as you lay in bed are these. To you, O king, as you lay in bed, came thoughts of what would be after this. And he who reveals mysteries made known to you what is to be. But as for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because of any wisdom that I have more than any living, but in order that the interpretation may be made known to the king, that you may know the thoughts of your mind. One thing I like about Daniel, he doesn't big himself up. We are just servants of God who he chooses to call friends, who he chooses to adopt as children. But you don't steal glory from God. Let God give it to you. So Daniel isn't bigging himself up. I don't have this because I'm so wise or I'm so better than anyone else or I'm so powerful. No, I have this because I'm a servant of Yahweh and Yahweh chose to share this with me. Let's continue. And reading from verse 31. You saw, O king, and behold, a great image. This image, mighty and of exceeding brightness. So it was a big, strong, beautiful and brilliant and shining image stood before you, and its appearance was frightening. The head of this image was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its middle and thighs of bronze. Excuse me. Its middle and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. As you looked, a stone was cut out by no human hand. Something cut out the stone, but it wasn't a human that did it. And it struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them into pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, the gold, all together were broken in pieces and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor. And the wind carried them away so that not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that cut the image became a great mountain and filled the earth. So, this is the image that Daniel saw. This is the image, that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed of. Head of gold, chest of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and the feet of iron mixed with clay. Some scholars basically say that the word used for clay here is actually would relate to aluminum. I have not done that research myself, but that's what some say. So this is the statue this is Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Alright, we call this the Metal Kingdom's dream. So let's look at the interpretation that Yahweh gave to Daniel. So reading from verse 36, this was the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. You, O king, the King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power and the might and the glory, and into whose hands he has given wherever they dwell the children of man, the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heavens, making you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold. Another kingdom inferior to you shall arise after you, and yet a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. And there shall be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, because iron breaks to pieces and shatters all things. And like iron that crushes, it shall break and crush all these. And as you saw the feet and toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, it shall be a divided kingdom, because some of the firmness of iron shall be in it, just as you saw iron mixed with soft clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly iron and partly clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly brittle. As you saw the iron mixed with soft clay, so they will mix with one another in marriage. But they will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of those kings, which kings are those? The kings that partly iron and partly clay. In the days of those rulers, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed, nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever, just as you saw that a stone was cut out from a mountain by no human hand, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. A great God has made known to the king what shall be after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation sure. So this is the interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Let's take a closer look. So this is Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Okay? The metal kingdoms. So we have the head of gold. And the head of gold was Babylon. Okay? Babylon reigned, or Babylon was in control from 606 BC to about 539 BC. What do I mean by reigned and was in control? You notice you'll see kingdoms here, but you'll see prominent kingdoms not mentioned. You do not see the kingdom of Egypt. Egypt was a great power before these. You do not see powerful kingdoms. You do not see Numidia. You do not see the great Ethiopian kingdom. You do not see the Mitanni. You do not see the Assyrians. In fact, Babylon was only possible because of the fall of Assyria. You do not see the Assyrians. And by the way, the beginning of the end of Assyria was when the Assyrians, who had never been stopped, who had never been defeated, decided to come against the kingdom of Judah in the days of Hezekiah. And they had never lost, yet they went home. They were not able to destroy the kingdom of Judah. They went home, and that was the beginning of the end for them. Their king was assassinated, and shortly thereafter their kingdom fell into ruins and the Babylonians rose up. Alright, so you don't see any of these kingdoms, and there's a simple reason why. Any kingdom mentioned in this prophecy is a kingdom that rules over the nation of Israel. So for you to see a kingdom here, there are a couple things that has to be in existence. One, there needs to be a nation of Israel. So you're not going to see like Egypt, because when Egypt was at its greatest, there was no kingdom of Israel. There was neither kingdom of Israel in the north, even when it was divided, right? Israel in the north and Judah in the south. There was no kingdom of Israel. There was a family who was in Egypt for a while, but there was no kingdom. And even when there were powerful kingdoms like the Mitanni and the Urartu, etc., they did not rule over Israel. So over the years, you may see there were powerful kingdoms like the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Toltecs, etc. But if they did not have control over Israel when it's a nation, the nation of Israel essentially started around 1450 BC with the Exodus. Okay? And they were essentially amalgamation or a close confederation of little fiefdoms. And then about 400 or so years after came David, and they became a powerful kingdom. And after David's son Solomon, they split into two. But at that point, they were a kingdom, they were a nation, until almost to the day, about 100 years after they rejected Messiah, at which point they were scattered through the earth. They weren't a kingdom again until about 1800 and about 1800 years later, 1948. So anyone listed in these metal kingdoms has to be ruling over Israel while they're a nation. Okay? So the first group, or the first metal kingdom, is Babylon, who were essentially ruling over from about 606 BC. Right? Daniel would have been among the first group of captives taken to Babylon from Judah, and then Babylon got completely tired because Jehoiakim, as we saw in chapter 1, rebelled, and they essentially destroyed Jerusalem and destroyed the temple in around 586. But there were deportations starting since 606. So around 539, Babylon was displaced by Persia. All right, and we see all this in this book of Daniel that we will see further. In fact, Nebuchadnezzar had this dream, and we are going to see another thing. This one will be a vision. It's the exact same thing, but it uses different iconography or different motifs, and we will see that in a future chapter. So Babylon was displaced by Persia, all right, and Persia ruled from 539 to 331 BC. All right, so Persia with Cyrus and Darius, etc., they ruled till 331 BC. Darius was the last of them. All right, and while to some extent Persia existed, it didn't exist as the great kingdom. There were successor kingdoms to Persia, but those successor kingdoms were not in control of Israel, whatever portion of Israel there was in the land. All right, so after Persia there would have been like the Parthian Empire, etc., who were successor kingdoms, but they were not in control. So after Persia was displaced by Greece. All right, under Alexander, or starting with Alexander, and Greece controlled from 331 BC till about 146 BC. All right, so Alexander came in, he defeated Darius, and we all know about Alexander and his great battles. Historians, or some military historians, will state that Alexander was the greatest general of all time, and he did some impressive things, but there were other impressive generals out there, and they didn't accomplish what Alexander accomplished. For whatever reason, some of the things Alexander did and was successful with was, to the casual observer, would seem like pure luck. It wasn't pure luck. Yahweh sets up kings and he brings down kings. He sets up kings and he brings down kings. You see, men have plans. Men have plans for themselves, but God has a plan. He created men, and men rebel, we do all manner of foolishness, but where God has a plan, and his plans will succeed. He will save us all, and he will fix everything, and he will get us back on track, regardless of the foolishness that we choose to do for whatever purpose, good or bad. So after Greece was displaced in 146 BC by Rome, the powerful Roman Empire. And Rome ruled from 146 BC, and some will say till 476 BC. This is partially true, partially untrue, because Rome had split. I can't remember the exact year. Let me check. Okay, I had to research that quickly. So Rome was in control from 146 BC, but in 280 AD, Diocletian decided that the Roman Empire was just too big. It couldn't be controlled by one man from one place. So in 280 AD, the Roman Empire split into two. So there was the Western Roman Empire, headquartered in Rome and ruled by a king in Rome, and there was the Eastern Empire, headquartered in Byzantium, later renamed to Constantinople, currently known as Istanbul. and that would have Istanbul, and that would have been ruled by another empire. So the Western Roman Empire fizzled out. And why I say fizzled out is, while the Babylonians were militarily displaced by the Persians. The Persians were militarily displaced and destroyed by the Greeks. In fact, violently displaced by the Greeks. But Rome kind of fizzled. They kind of, yeah, they had wars and whatever, but they just kind of almost died. Just died of almost natural causes. They sort of fizzled out. There was no specific end per se. It's agreed that the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire, ceased to be a thing in 476. But it's like a fizzling. But even after the Western Roman Empire died, the Eastern Roman Empire continued for 1,000 years, till the 15th century AD, when they were displaced by the Ottoman Empire. But the thing is, why don't we see, after the Iron Kingdom of Rome, why don't we see another metal kingdom of the Ottomans, of the Muslims? Simple. After 133 AD, there was no Israel. Remember, I stated these kingdoms had to rule over Israel. After 133 AD until 1948, there was no nation or kingdom of Israel. And all of these empires listed here had to rule over Israel. Now, there's something interesting about these empires. From the top to the bottom, you see them decreasing in worth. So gold is more precious, or it's worth more than silver. Silver is worth more than bronze. Bronze is worth more than iron, and iron is worth more than whatever is this iron clay mix. But although you see them decreasing in value or decreasing in worth, you see them increasing in power, in strength. So silver is stronger, is a stronger metal. You will never, silver is a stronger metal than gold. You're never going to use gold to make something like a sword. It's just too malleable, too brittle. Bronze is stronger than silver. That's why there was a Bronze Age. There were bronze weapons. The Greeks fought with a sword called a xiphos. Most of those xiphos were made out of bronze. And then Rome was iron. Iron is stronger than bronze. I stated earlier that some scholars, I have not done that research, as I said again, so I can't confirm or deny. Some scholars claim that the word used for clay here is aluminum. If that's the case, then the feat is even stronger than the iron, because when there's an alloy if you mix iron and aluminum, it comes into an even better metal that's a bit more resistant to corrosion. So it's as strong as iron, but doesn't corrode as fast. Alright, by the way, the last kingdom, alright, with the feet of iron and clay, that's a future kingdom that will come, that will rule over Israel in the future. So at some point, there is going to be a kingdom that is going to rule over Israel. This kingdom is going to be led by the Antichrist, and it's going to rule over Israel. And I didn't put it here, but there will be, what's not in this thing is there's a stone. It's a small stone, and that stone is going to hit this statue at its feet. So it's going to hit in the time of these kings, which is a time future to us that many of us will see. It's going to hit at the time of these kings, and all the whole line of kingdoms, all the influence that has gone before is going to be broken. Because what happens, kingdoms replace kingdoms, but they pass on various things. They pass them on. So that's why we still use certain structures from the Greeks or from the Persians or from the Babylonians. But there is a kingdom coming in the future. It's going to start small, but it's going to hit. And this kingdom is not going to be made by men. It's not going to be cut out by hands. You see, all of these things, all of these metal kingdoms, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greek, the Rome, Nebuchadnezzar saw them as refined metals. All of these things come out of the earth, but they have to have human intervention to refine them, to extract and turn them into gold or to bronze. Well, bronze is an ally. Sorry, not an ally, an alloy, or to iron, etc. But this kingdom that's coming in the future, this little stone, it's going to be just a stone. It's going to be raw. No human is going to create it. It's not going to be based on our human endeavors. It's not going to be made on the politics of man. This is a kingdom that is run by and coming from and will be based on the values and the principles of Yahweh. And it's going to be ruled by Yahweh, who takes on flesh. It's going to be ruled by Jesus, the man God. And it's going to hit those nations at its feet in the future. And while it's going to start off as a small stone, it's going to be a mountain that will fill the earth. So this kingdom will fill the earth, and it will be the kingdom over all the earth. Not through violence, not through I am taking over your nation, no, but because nations will essentially lay their leadership. They're going to come and state, hey, lead us, and they're going to lay it at the feet of Christ, and the nation of God, the kingdom of God, however you wish to call it, is going to rule over all the earth and fix all the earth. And this is what is coming. So this is the metal kingdom. So Daniel in this chapter shows you what happens from the time of Babylon to the end. People have a problem with the book of Daniel, because when this was written around this time, but it accurately told about all through the Persian period, the Greek period, the Roman period. And we're going to see this over and over as we go through the book of Daniel. That's why I said Daniel is the linchpin of prophecy concerning our time. All right? So these are the metal kingdoms of Daniel, promising us a glorious future. But let's continue. And from verse 46, then Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face and paid homage to Daniel, and commanded that an offering and incense be offered up to him. And the king answered and said to Daniel, truly, your God is the God of gods, and the Lord, or the ruler of kings, and a revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal this mystery. Then the king gave Daniel high honors and many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief prefect over all the wise men of Babylon. Daniel made a request of the king, and he appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel remained at the king's court. So, we are, as Christians, imagers of God. We are representatives of Yahweh. Stand and be a representative of Yahweh. And when Yahweh is glorified, Yahweh will exalt you. But you notice when Daniel is honored and exalted, he also raised up his compatriots. So as Christians, we should take care of each other. We should not be in competition with each other, and we should not try to pull down this one for our benefit, which we see so much. We all don't do the same thing. This person will be doing this, this person will be doing that. So you may see someone doing something, that's his job, you do yours. So there are guys who will go and debate with this group, or go and debate with that group, or go and debate with that. That's their job. But God is a very complex God, and life is complex, so he has a bunch of us doing various things. Yours may not be as, what you are supposed to do may not be as glamorous and forward facing, or public facing as what someone else has to do. But that does not make it any more important or less important. And you should not have to pull down someone else to push up yourself. So when Daniel was exalted, he got his compatriots, who are also followers of Yahweh, promoted as well. And we should pattern from that. So, thank you. Look out for Daniel chapter 2. Sorry, this is Daniel chapter 2. Look out for chapter 3 next week. Thank you. God bless.